You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Put that coffee down.
I'm a British nanny, and I'm dangerous.
It don't matter if you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
That was totally wicked!
It is the Al Travis Show. We have him on with us, as we do every week, Senator Aric Putnam. Senator, how are you today, you show-off?
I'm doing well, my friend. How am I show-off?
2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row, you're in the paper the morning that I'm doing the show with you, and it's like somebody's planning something. You can't be in the paper that often. Just can't.
That's what it's all about. It's about, prepping to talk to you. I'm trying to manipulate the media.
Well, I sit there and I think to myself, what in God's green earth would I want to talk to Putnam about? And then there it is in the Star. So I said, okay, well, that's one thing. Let's talk about it. Some bigwig deal in St. Cloud, and a couple of deals, and there's probably a whole lot of intrigue going on at your house on this. Your wife's school district, she's the superintendent, for folks who know, the number one school superintendent in the state of Minnesota. Now, does she have to give that crown? Well, we'll talk another time. At her school district, the Rotary Club came out, and they wanted to do this pre-K, give it a shot thing. So Rotary came up like $400,000. Your wife, her school must have $400,000. They're going to put this thing together. And evidently, they did this pre-K thing. And what they found out is you can teach pre-K kids not to eat the glue, how to use those little stubby scissors that no one knew how to use back in the day, and how to hold a pencil. And this is a stark raving success, evidently, and they had you quote on it. This is a good deal?
It's freaking huge. It's wonderful. So, here's the larger story. So I'm part of that Rotary Club, actually, and we had a book club, and we were reading a book about preschool and how important it is for kids. And then we did some research into what our local situation was like. And in that year, we had 200 kids, over 200 kids waiting on the wait list for preschool because we just didn't have preschool. And so the Rotary folks, this is where I stepped out. I was good with the idea, but they actually started raising money, and I didn't have anything to do with that.
All right, fair enough.
They started raising some money, and they started doing some work locally, and they partnered with the school district and split the bill to create 60 new seats for preschool. It's a really cool program. So what we're doing at the state government now is trying to facilitate the partnership. So we're not taking over for Rotary. We're helping Rotary and the school district offer the program and expand.
Well, if I read right, though, the Rotary says we kickstart these sort of things, but we won't run them in like perpetuity. So they are at some point. It was a long story, but anyway, they're not going to be there forever. So this would be we got to get this model rolling, and shouldn't this work for the whole state? I mean, this comes down to, and I presume I'm talking for you, how do we do this for the state to kick in money to school districts so they can teach kids not to eat the glue?
I'm a big fan of not glue eating because I'm a result of having eaten too much glue. So if we want, I got off my
addiction in third grade. I got off addiction in third grade of the glue. No, it's a good thing. No, I'm sarcastic, but that's what we're talking about. Now we have some sort of proof that this works, and shouldn't we throw money at it? I don't know if 400,000 is, or I guess would be 8 if Pope put in $1 million rounded up is good for that many kids. I don't know what the price. Can you do it cheaper if everybody's got it? That's my point. Is do we have any idea on the numbers of real cost? And not the Rotary cost, because they don't have the ins and stuff.
Well, that's the thing. So there's a couple different challenges here. And one of the reasons I really dig this program is that we're doing it the way that St. Cloud should do it, but everybody should do it, but they're going to do it in a different way. So in our community, the Rotary Club stepped up. Maybe somewhere else it's the Kiwanis, And we have some schoolrooms, but in a lot of districts, they might not have rooms, and they might have to partner with the YMCA to get some classrooms. So
I see. Okay.
It's the kind of thing that has that level of flexibility, but the core belief, which you should be much more enthusiastic about than you are, is this whole notion of public-private partnership to take care of a public problem. So I want to see some rainbows shooting out your pie hole right now.
I brought it up.
This is the kind of thing you're supposed to love.
I brought it up, and I really did think it was just the lead-in to go all statewide. Public-private, congrats to the Rotary Club. I mean, they do a lot of good stuff. I'm glad that they did this. I would be interested to see long-range how this works. Because how do I put it? It's wrong because it was 60 years ago whenever I was in preschool, we didn't have preschool then, but when you went to kindergarten, we were a lot of knotheads. As much as we want to say we got to teach the kids, get them all ready for kindergarten, I swear to God, the kindergarten class I had, if you look back, we're lucky we weren't just sucking on rocks. There were not a lot of rocket scientists in my kindergarten class. So the kindergarten teachers got us. I don't know if it needs to be at 4 years old. I really don't. As long as the Rotary want to step up, I'm all for it. I thought it was a nice story. Somebody go read it. It's in the Star Tribune. You did good. I mean, for man of your caliber. Now, I want to put this out there with some caveats because you were mentioned in that news story, and so was your wife. I am not calling conflict of interest. I'm really not, but I want to get us to Senator Bobby Joe Champion, if I could. I've had him on my television show, the cable thing, more than a couple times. I really like Mr. Champion, to be complete on it. I'll throw it all out there. I like this cat. I brought this term up yesterday, and it's probably wrong. Geographically, it's a racist geographical thing, I'm going to say. Okay? We have, it's a new terminal, geographically racist.
I'm nodding so enthusiastically. I'm like, yeah,
because you're excited.
Go ahead, be racist.
Yeah, it's geographically racist. It's different.
All right.
You, from where I'm at, and I think my Senator Draheim has 8 or 9 counties total, right, that he swashbuckles in to be my senator. I don't run into him much, right? I mean, he's just not eating where I eat, not going to my church. You, on the other hand, St. Cloud, and well, you sleep with her too, but I'm this superintendent and you're on that, you're going to have some conflicts, right? I mean, your job at the Senate includes education stuff, and your wife's in the education business, right? I mean, we can't get around it with part-time legislators. When I say geographically racist, and yours is a relatively larger district, you look at a Champions district like I'm just guessing, 10 square blocks of Minneapolis. I mean, this is not huge. For him to go to church, to the store, to whatever, he's going to have contact with a greater portion. Yeah, probably even a greater portion. You know, people are going to know people. These are the businesses in my town. This is what I do. Draham's not coming down to get his tires changed, right? So he's not going to be in my town. So my point being is, this reverend that he knew, this thing that came up with the guy, I have no problem with that. I mean, he's got it. How do you guys walk around the perception? And again, pro bono is supposed to be the work he did. I'm not claiming anything on the guy. I don't know how you guys don't trip on this all day long. He should have been raising his hand. Just so you know, I did some pro bono work for him, but he might be raising his hand all day long. You might in the education field. Well, that could touch my wife because we're buying books for kids, and then she doesn't have to. You know, how do you get around it?
No, I think you're right. And when you focus on the fact that it's a perception problem and not an actual one, more often than not, right? So, like, but technically, anyone who has a kid is biased towards education. Do you know what I mean?
No, I didn't like my kids much, but that's different.
That's true.
I get you.
So you're biased against it because you want to keep them snorting glue, eating glue. Sorry, I somehow put your kids in the 80s instead of.
All right, that's wrong. That's funny. But you get my point. And I say racistly, geographically racist, in the cities especially, there's such a small geographical area. I presume you're going to know these people.
Well,
Draheim's
like, I totally get where you're coming from, but it's one of the weird things about American democracy is that's true, because Rich might not get his tires changed in your district, in your community, but he's going to get them changed somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So, like, part of the weird things about representative democracy is we're supposed to have relationships with the people that we represent.
There you go.
But it does get challenging because we can't have representatives with relationships with all 85,000 of them. And so there are that's why the weirdest thing in politics is access, not decisions. So you know, it's people complain about money in politics. Well, the biggest issue is no one's ever given me money for a campaign, and I've made a decision because of it. But I have been able to listen to people because they're around more often. And it's that question of access is more important than the decision itself, but access is part of democracy. So what are you going to do about it?
That's why we have government relations guys in every large business, right? You got to be sitting outside Putnam's door in case he wings by. You can say, "Oh, by the way, Aric, I got to throw a thing at you," and you become friends. And I don't disagree with anything that you said. I guess my problem is, so we don't have this perception. I need everybody raising their hand. And again, everybody gets special treatment. First off, he's a lawyer. Got to know what again, I don't think he did anything quote unquote wrong. It might be a loophole. I don't know. But he's also on the ethics committee. He should have a sore right hand for raising it, saying somehow, you know, I want to be out there. And I think that's where he might have slipped up. We'll find out when it's all said and done. But it brought up a bigger issue that some friends and I were chatting about. And that was these NGOs. and I have no idea whether this guy did a great job for Minneapolis. I don't really. I have no clue. But when we don't ask, was it request for proposals? If we don't say we're going to put $3 million into the stopping crime in Minneapolis thing, whatever you call it, community policing. If you don't put that out there and say, give us your requests and have 12 people put in and you take the one with the best record or the whatever, if you're not doing that, that then seems goofy to me, and the taking Champion out of it, because I'd happen to, we're going to give it to him. And there's no, how do you know if it worked or didn't? That seems like, I find that weird that that's now become a custom in Minnesota and across the nation. You know what I'm saying? Should that not be, shouldn't we be different than that?
So I'm going to play with you a little bit here on this one.
Go
Because
ahead.
I think to a certain extent you're right, but there's an unintended consequence behind the point of view that I hear you're expressing right now.
Okay.
And we're going through this in ag right now. We got a bunch of organizations, nonprofits that have been pass-throughs that we've funded for years and years and years. But because of the language about accountability, people want to put all those things into a competitive grant program now.
Yeah.
You know what competitive grant requires? What you're talking about requires is government.
Somebody to look at it and see.
Yeah, we need government bureaucracy to do that. So that becomes part of the challenge is if we want greater oversight, we need to have more people in government and bigger government bureaucracy, which is it's a balancing act, right? Like I'm not suggesting you're saying one or the other, but we have to have enough government to do that. So this language of like tear down government and Doge.
But I didn't say tear down. My point was, if you believe $3 million is the number to help in Minneapolis, right? Mm-hmm. To just say, I know X, Al's Crime Stopper unit, I'm going to give him $3 million. He's going to be the guy. It just cuts out, it has perception all over that it's who you know, not what you know. And that's kind of my problem. The other thing is, and now they're going to do it again this year. And I don't know how many years he's gotten it. I don't think any nefarious stuff went on, but the idea that we're going to do it again next year. Did anybody have to say is crime down in Minneapolis? You know what I'm saying? Do we have any results? You being on the ag committee, if these people are getting you results and you're willing to vote on it and hang your hat on it, I'll go with it. I don't want to study the ag department. I mean, my point is, at some point, somebody's got to be held accountable. I hate to say that I think that's what's happening with Champion. I think he's being held accountable, and the Republicans are going to beat him up with an ugly stick on it. I'm not for that, by the way. But I'm just saying I think it highlights something that we do need to take a look at. Is Champion willing to stand up and say, these are the only people that could take the $3 million? I'll stand. You're going to stand up for your ag guy and say, doing 20 years, they do a great job, and this is why we keep... Okay, stand up for it, and then that's why we vote for y'all. That's all I'm saying. I got to go to break. We got a lot of stuff going on. He's Senator Aric Putnam on the Al Travis Show.
If it's your turn to host a game, Grandpa's Barbecue suggests you try something different. Put out the perfect barbecue flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. Add it to your ribs, dip the meatballs, or drench your wings in the original flavor of Grandpa's Barbecue. It isn't too hot or spicy, fruity or smoky or whatever. Grandpa's Barbecue. Available in select stores and online at grandpasbarbecueshop.com.
Chanhassen Dinner Theaters brings you its most popular show of all time, Grease. You'll hear all your favorite hits from the Broadway musical and the movie. Join the whole gang at Rydell High. We'll sing, we'll dance, we'll bring you back to high school life in the 50s. Poodle skirts, bobby socks, the soda shop, and drive-in movies. Grease! It'll rock your socks off. Order your tickets today. Visit chanhassendt.com.
Are you kidding me?
You know that comment you said to the radio? The thing that we got wrong?
Clearly, Brussels sprouts are the worst vegetable.
Call us and let the world know your thoughts. 855-257-7469. That's 855-ALS-SHOW.
I've got him, Senator Aric Putnam. I'm going to have a long-winded question, then I'm going to leave all of it up to you. This next statement is all about how we overreact in government, then have to go back and fix by overreacting. 89, 90, somewhere in that neck of the woods, the Minnesota government realized you could not do the rule of 90 with teachers. It just was unsustainable. If your age and how many years you worked with 90, you could retire full benefit. It was unsustainable. Completely agree. So what do? We're done. As of 1990, I don't remember what day. A lot of things happened since then. It's done. Well, that hung a few people out to drive. I used my wife, Truth in Advertising. I know about this because of my wife. She was in the same graduating class as the guy who got hired here in Blue Earth. She was a student teacher for that last however long he had a student teach in 1990. He got the rule of 90. My wife did not. So as we were approaching retirement, he retires at 57. My wife has to make 67 to get the same retirement. My point being is they went through school and college and went to go teach, all expecting the same thing, but because of the hitch, we drew a line and stopped. I think that was a bad idea for the government. But now the government's looking at saying, okay, 60 it is. You can retire at 60 plus 30 years. This is going to cost a ton. And it's the knee flex reaction. I want them to fix what happened to my wife. I seriously do. Selfish as heck. But this should be, rule of 90 was a bad fix. What we're going to do is make a 4-year or however long you want it takes to go to college, the 5-year plan that we're going to slowly roll this out so that person like my wife who went to school thinking you had this would get it. And then those that have now gone thinking there's no rule of 90, why are we trying to get it back? I think there's a room in the middle. Do you know if either one of these, because I know the Republicans also have one, I think it's 62. The Democrats want 60, 30 years retired. I don't know if that's sustainable, and it costs a lot of money. I just think you need to fix the stop. Long question. Your thoughts on the rule of 90?
I think you're totally right. I mean, the challenge with restoring the rule of 90 across the board is that it's $4 billion a year. That's just not going to happen.
No.
I hate to say that. Love teachers. I was a teacher myself. I was a second grade teacher for 2 months at one point in time. And I was horrible at it. Absolutely horrible. Those kids should be able to sue. Every single one of them. And I'm sure that every single one of them is in prison now. That's why they haven't sued yet, is because every single one of those kids is in prison now. So I got nothing but love for the profession and the art of teaching, right? But that's just not a thing that's going to be likely to happen fiscally, the $4 billion a year. But you're right. That sounds like a pretty crappy thing to do, to just kind of turn off the spigot and not tell people you're going to turn off the spigot.
4 years in, made a career choice, and then you changed. And that's kind of my wife's deal. And I got to speak for her. She gets mad when I do on the radio. I just think there's a softer way of making that landing if you want to get rid of it. And there's also a better way than just, 60 and 30. Now, maybe you have to pay that deal. People go 30. No one goes 30 anymore. Right. Maybe you have to. I don't know. But is either one of those going to pass in your opinion? The Republican 62 or your guys' is 60?
They're both super expensive, and right now when we're talking about funding education, the focus is more on the kids than it is on the teachers. Not realizing that those kind of relate to each other a little bit, So it's that's how it's going to get stuck.
Such a complicated dynamic.
Right? So I think it's going to get stuck in conversations about those kinds of issues. I'm not on the ground on this one.
All right.
So, I don't serve on those committees, but I do talk about it with people a fair amount. It's a troubling issue, but we're talking about how just turning off the spigot. That's one of the weird things about government is we make these kind of arbitrary lines all the time. And so we say okay, if it went away say it went away in 1990, we said anyone who was teaching until 1994, those people in 1995 are going to lose their biscuits. So it's like all of these lines we draw are a problem. So I think you're right. We got to draw them gracefully and slowly and tell people what we're doing.
So if you don't want to be a teacher, don't go to teacher school and then get 4 years in. And that's the only reason I know about it. A lot of stuff is complicated and it's not easy. I appreciate that you do it every day. I appreciate you getting the paper every week before we come on. I don't know what you got in your store for next week, but make it fun, will you? I enjoy that.
I'll aim for some sort of scandal just to give us more to talk about.
See, and I think it's written up there. There's scandals everywhere if you just pretend that everything is the worst thing in the world.
I'm just not that interesting. That's the problem.
For a guy who's interviewed you every week for years, I would agree. No, I'm just kidding. Have a good one, Mr. Senator. I love having you on. We'll talk to you.
You're around.
Senator Aric Putnam on the Al Travis Show.